Lisboa, cidade amiga que és, meu berço de embalar, ensina-me uma cantiga das que tu sabes cantar. Uma cantiga singela, daquelas de enfeitiçar, para eu cantar na janela quando o meu amor passar. Sempre que Lisboa canta, não sei se canta, não sei se reza, na sua voz com carinho, canta baixinho sua tristeza. Sempre que Lisboa canta, a gente encanta sua beleza. Pois quando Lisboa canta, canta ao fado com certeza. Eu quero dar-te um castigo por tanto te ter amado. Quero que cantes comigo os versos do mesmo fado.
Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then I'll begin. This is Fred. When Fred was between times, waiting in the celestial antechamber, having a really good think about the human life he'd just had, what he'd learned, and so on and so forth, he spotted a globe in the cabinet over on the far wall. Fred had never seen a globe before because the last time Fred was on Earth, they didn't use them. In Fred's day, they still used maps, which rolled up and were stored alongside the nautical charts on the quarterdeck. Fred was very familiar with maps because he had been a cartographer in his last human incarnation. In fact, he'd worked for a very famous cartographer, Ahmed ibn Majid, an expert on marine science in the mid-15th century. After his apprenticeship, Fred had made his way to Portugal and joined the crew under Vasco da Gama. They had had the most perilous of journeys and the adventure of a lifetime. In those days, lifetimes were much shorter than today. Fred had lived a full life, but not a very long one. When the celestial under-secretary to the head of a reassignment spotted Fred in the corridor, they pointed out it was really time to return to physical form. How about becoming a dog? They suggested. We need a lot more dogs on the next exodus down to Earth. Dogs, said Fred. Can I become a dog? Oh yes, said the angelic steward. You'd make a great dog. They're today's explorers, and you have just the right personality. OK, then I'll be a dog, decided Fred. The angelic steward downloaded 3.5 billion dog options into Fred's neocortex to choose from. As a man, Fred had had ginger hair, so he looked for a dog that had a reddish coat. That one, he said, smiling at the image as it hit his occipital lobe. He looked like a fine explorer. The angelic steward nodded. May I go back to Portugal? Fred asked. Portugal? Yes, I left in July 1497 to sail down the coast of Africa, then on to India. However, when we landed, I disembarked and ventured into the interior because I needed to explore this fascinating land. By the time I returned to the docks, the ship had sailed back to Portugal with my maps on board. I really want to see my homeland again. The angelic one looked at their notepad. I can get you on a trajectory for Portugal, but your journey at first won't be easy, they said. Fred looked disheartened, but if he could be anywhere in the world again, it would be Portugal, and he was prepared to cope with a rough crossing if that's what it took. But don't despair. You will find your true human pair within a year. Just keep looking for them. How will I know when I found them? Said Fred, concerned. They painted a ship on the side of their house, said the angelic steward. Fred was most excited to hear that. Everyone had to then wait until the Earth's moon had reached its correct phase before heading down to the planet's surface. After supersonic screening to ensure he was carrying no outer universe debris, Fred arrived in Portugal. His life at first was very hard, but eventually, through a sequence of rather serendipitous situations, Fred found his way to our house. The house, which has a ship painted on its side, which is a story for another time. But let's return to Fred. After he arrived, there was a lot of very excited barking. Fred was surrounded by several other dogs, but he was thrilled to hear them speak Portuguese canine. Each one of the dogs had a different tale about their life before, and how they ended up back in Portugal in canine form. On a magical mystery ride in the Land Rover, Fred bonded quickly with the one who said his name was Kay. "Isn't that a lady dog's name?" asked Fred curiously. Kay replied that this was a modern house, and those sorts of rules didn't apply, which sounded very cool, and Fred let the matter lie. "What's your story then?" said Fred, settling in for a good long tale as the Land Rover bumped down the Portuguese lanes. "I stood looking over this land in 210 BC, said Kay, enjoying the view from the back seat. "Back then I wasn't a dog, I was a Roman centurion. I was born in Rome, and like my elder brothers and my father and his father, I became a soldier. I did quite well as a soldier in the ranks, then excelled in the bravery stakes. So was made a centurion, a very great honour, you understand. They were increasing the ranks of centurions to quell the rebellion in the provinces, which refused to acknowledge allegiance to the Emperor Augustus. Well, continued Kay, after becoming a centurion, I then got shipped out to what was then called Lusitania." "Isn't that what they used to call Portugal?" said Fred, who was well informed in any matter of geographical import. "Yes, that's right," said Kay, pleased as punch that Fred was knowledgeable. Not all of his new canine companions was that interested in such things. "What happened next?" asked Fred. "Sadly, my life was cut short in a big battle," said Kay, feeling quite sad for a moment. "I don't remember much about the battle. Thankfully, as you know, they wipe the last few hours of your life from your memory when you get to the land between times." Fred nodded sagely. "How did you get back here?" he asked. Kay, encouraged, continued with his story, pointing out that the trickiest bit about coming back was studying Portuguese, because in his former life he had spoken Latin, because that's what all Romans spoke in those days. "Did you want to come back as a dog?" asked Fred, curious. Kay looked at him astonished. "Of course! What else would I want to be once I knew that was on the table?" Fred chuckled and nodded. What else would one want to be? It's a good life.
Barrete sobre a orelha, cinta vermelha bem apertada, ao alto firme o pampilho quando o novilho foge à manada, com o colete encarnado, jaqueta e a meia branca. Campinos, Toiros e Fado, esperas de gado, eis Vila Franca. Terras do Ribatejo, cheias de sol e alegria, gente sem ambições, que dá lições de valentia. Terras de Vila Franca, onde tanta e tanta vez, sem temer uma colhida, se arrisca a vida com altivez. Um lavrador de Samarra, uma guitarra bem dedilhada, Campinos de manhã cedo, firmes sem medo sobre a montada. E se uma pega é valente, ninguém da praça os arranca. Vibra a gente entusiasmado numa tourada em Vila Franca. Terras do Ribatejo, cheias de sol e alegria, gente sem ambições, que dá lições de valentia. Terras de Vila Franca, onde tanta e tanta vez, sem temer uma colhida, se arrisca a vida com altivez. Terras de Vila Franca, onde tanta e tanta vez, sem temer uma colhida, se arrisca a vida com altivez.